Welcome, everyone. I'd like to thank you all for tuning in today to this episode of Talking Crops with HFC. I'm Kenny Kingins. My co-host today is Caleb Little. Caleb is one of our sales agronomists for our company. And today, Caleb and I have a special guest, Mr. Darrin Holder. So thank you for being here, Darrin.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to have a conversation today about boron and some of the things and some of the values we see in their products. So, Caleb, you just chime in and we'll get started.
Again, thanks, Darrin, for being here today to kind of help explain to us what WinField has to offer and what we move out in the field and what you see in some of the things that we're doing. So just to briefly, we picked boron today just because it is a very mobile nutrient, and Darrin's going to enlighten us a little bit more, too, of the importance of boron in the plant. But we all typically talk about nitrogen and sulfur being mobile, but boron is actually even more mobile than nitrogen and sulfur. We typically might put it aside just because it is a micronutrient. But Darrin, can you enlighten us a little bit more, maybe the importance of boron in the plant and why it is important to consider applying boron?
Absolutely, Caleb. So you said it's a micro, but it's an essential nutrient, right? It's one of the 16 you absolutely have to have. It's needed in a very small amount, but it's got two very important jobs in the life of the crop. Number one, cell wall strength. That's why we think about boron early as we go through that early reproductive or vegetative stage, and we're going from a little bitty floppy plant, regardless of crop, to a much bigger rigid plant. We've got to have that cell wall strength to do that. And then once we hit reproduction, it's all about flowering. And boron is a critical nutrient in that process to make sure that we get the pollen shed and the pollen tube extension.
So you talk about the two different stages, and at an uptake curve, you're kind of explaining that. So everybody looks at nitrogen curve and different potassium curves replicate it, very similar, but boron, as you're saying, is almost just two rises as we're talking throughout the season. So important timing as we do all of this and why we apply it and when we apply it.
That's right. That really molds the decision on when to apply is when you have the need, because like you said, it's very mobile. Right. You want to make sure you have the nutrient when you need it, and that's early, right? And fortunate for us, that matches when we're doing a lot of our post-chemistry sprays, and then it's late right there when we're doing our fungicide application. So it works out really nicely for us. We didn't design that. We just got very fortunate with that being the case.
And we need that just so everybody has a good experience, and you'll continue to hear us at Henry Farmers talk about return on investment, and that's one thing that obviously we're here for, and here for you as a retailer, for you growers that are out there watching this. But to go into a little bit more depth, we actually wanted to see there is a lot of different boron products out there that you can source, okay? And for us, it's our job to dwindle that down and know what is actually getting into the plant, what's having a return on investment. And we actually have done plots in the past, and what we have done is apply different boron products to try to see which one was actually getting into the plant. We took tissue samples before and after the application and tried to see which ones were getting into the plant, and then we even changed some rates as we did some of this. And what we found consistently is Maxin boron had a higher concentration of getting into the plant in the boron specific. So can you tell us a little bit about what the technology is in the Maxin boron?
Yeah, so Maxin boron is based off boric acid, which I would say 95% of your foliar boron products are. Yeah. They're the same source, boric acid. The difference is the actual Maxin technology. That's where the patent lies. That's using corn-sorb technology, which is the surfactant packages that we use to do two things. And as you can see in these pictures here, one on the right is liquid boron, 10%, it's boric acid, yep. No additional surfactant package whatsoever. And you can see that water droplet looks just like a water droplet would by itself with no boron in it on the leaf surface. That it pulls up, has about a 90-degree contact angle. Whereas I look on the picture here on the left, that's Maxin boron. That's the exact same source of boron as the other one, but you see that droplet spreads out. Yep. So that's the first thing that it does, is I make that droplet spread out. If I spread the droplet out, I have more access to the pores on the leaf cuticle, and I'm helping overcome that obstacle, right? I tell people all the time, God didn't design cuticles to be sponges. That's He designed cuticles to keep liquids out, and so the plant could regulate itself from the inside out. So you see that huge difference there in the way that droplet spreads. I'm going to do a much better job of staying on there. The other part of corn sorb is high fructose corn syrup. is a sugar, and so that acts as a humectant. And if I keep that, which will make that droplet be wetter longer, and the longer that droplet stays a liquid, the more time I have to get those nutrients out, or whatever's in that droplet, out of that droplet and through that cuticle. That's the max end advantage.
And typically, some people in the past may have flirted with timing of putting on different foliar applications, just like you were saying, to get into that cuticle, right? So we have this wax paper here to help replicate what the cuticle is on the plant. But even to go into more depth, when we're applying some of these, you said it's going to be during some flowering. So if you think about soybeans, when it's flowering, it's obviously hot and it's trying to typically, like you said, sponge maybe protect itself or conserve water. When we talk about corn, it's kind of starting to twist up. Potentially we see that when it's hot and dry. So to even go into more depth, we're helping protect ourselves or have insurance on it by having the corn sorb technology. But even to go further, we're going to try to maybe play with some different timings, because we've seen that that's obviously important too when those pores are open on that cuticle as well. So we're very glad to have Darrin here to help explain more on the MaxN technology, and there's more nutrients that have this as well. We can talk about MaxNK that we've done different research on as well, but wanted to talk to you today specifically about boron, because it's something that we need to be timely about. Sometimes it might be disregarded, but as Darrin said, it fits in very well with some of the other applications that we can piggyback on and to be more efficient. And we know that it's agronomically sound, and we know that it gives you a return on investment on your farm. So thank you very much for Darrin for coming to enlighten us a little bit more about it, and hope to visit with you guys a little bit more in the future.
Thanks again. We appreciate it. We'll see you soon with another episode of Talking Crops with HFC.